On today's news, WWE rushed their draft plans and kept their talent in the dark about it. The company is happy with a controversial NXT gimmick, my review of the first night of the draft on SmackDown, Tempest review of Rampage, and more. So far with Ollie as my manservant, I've got him wearing a bow tie and saying I'm the greatest champion ever, but I always feel like there's room for more. Subscribe to the channel because once we hit 815,000 subscribers, I'll get him to do something extra humiliating.
Support WrestleTalk!
WWE often likes to keep storyline info close to the vest, and that could not be more true than with the WWE Draft, as talent reportedly had no clue what their future looked like ahead of last night's SmackDown. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select reported that he had spoken to top names on Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, who all said they had no idea where they were going to go in the draft. NXT talent that was spoken to were not even told whether they would be drafted or not, let alone which brand they would be going to. The talent also said that this is how it usually is, with them not knowing. Lovely. The report also notes that as of Wednesday, there were names in talent relations who didn't even know what the draft plans were. Additionally, the format of the draft was not known as of Thursday. Boy, do they ever sound organized? Wasn't it reported for months that WWE were waiting for the draft to reveal their big plans, after it was revealed that they were waiting until SummerSlam for their big plans, and that was after they were waiting for fans to come back to reveal their big plans? Maybe they just don't have big plans. Crazy idea. In years past, WWE has relished in the opportunity to split up as many real-life couples in the draft as possible. This often made the draft a very stressful time for couples for obvious reasons, made even worse by the lack of communication from WWE creative. This was especially evident in the 2016 draft, as multiple couples were drafted to different brands. This did not appear to be the case this year, as after the first night of the draft, no couples have been broken up. There is still time though. Hey, you know that new awful character that Joe Gacy is portraying on NXT 2.0? Well, WWE is reportedly very happy with the gimmick, and the reaction it has gotten, because of course they are. Dave Meltzer reported the news in the Wrestling Observer newsletter Friday, saying the Joe Gacy woke left gimmick has gotten WWE some mainstream publicity, including on Fox News, which the company is very happy with. Gacy has appeared on the last two episodes of NXT 2.0, cutting ludicrous promos, throwing around buzzwords like safe space and cancelled, and triggered. Stop saying people are triggered. It's an actual medical term for people dealing with anxiety, you absolute morons. The gimmick has gotten WWE some attention, and mentions of Gacy and his promo from social media after his first appearance on September 21st. Not sure why he was taken off the first episode though, as he appeared on the following episode with absolutely no changes to the character. It has been several months since WWE came to terms with the releases of Peyton Royce and Billie Kay, formerly known as the Iiconics. While their 90-day non-compete clauses have since expired, they haven't made any appearances since their releases. That is, until now. The duo announced on their Off Her Chops podcast that they will be making a series of appearances throughout October, however they will still not be wrestling. The first of which will be tonight, October 2nd, at the Legends of the Ring event in New Jersey. They will also be making appearances on October 9th in Tennessee, October 16th in Baltimore, and a virtual appearance on October 21st. So if you are a fan of theirs and live in those areas, go show some support. The duo also recently revealed their new name will be the IInspiration, complete with the necessary extra I, and it will likely only be a matter of time before they pop up in another promotion that will be smart enough to keep them together as a team this time. And now it's time for my review of SmackDown in about 5 minutes. Thank you for being awesome pledge hammers on Patreon, Victor, Henry, Napoleon Dynamite, and the $100 Man, CD Horver. You can get your own shoutouts and loads of extra bonus WrestleTalk content by visiting us at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. It's the first night of the WWE Draft, and the format, as always, is pretty dumb and not very well explained. Half of the roster is eligible to be drafted on the first night, and the other half is eligible to be drafted on the second night. This involves Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. So, who are in the two halves? We don't get to know that. Also, anyone who isn't drafted gets to pick what brand they end up on, which is a better deal than getting drafted, so you don't really want to be drafted. Makes perfect sense. This also means we have no scope of how well each brand in kayfabe has done on the first night, because we don't know any draft pools and who is or isn't eligible to be picked. So let's go through all the picks that happened on SmackDown now, why not? First off, SmackDown drafted Roman Reigns and Raw Women's Champion Charlotte Flair. That's interesting at least, a bit of a change up and a champion swapping brands, that's fun. And with Raw then drafting Big E and Bianca Belair, it lends some credence to Bianca potentially winning the SmackDown Women's Championship at Crown Jewel and taking it over to Raw with her. So far, so good. In the next round, SmackDown drafted Drew McIntyre and Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, while Big E stays on Raw. So they split up the New Day. Again. Why? Why would you do that? Big E literally only just rejoined them on Raw, and there were some really interesting six-man feuds to be had with the Bloodline and the newly reformed Hurt Business. Not to mention that the three of them together are more than the sum of their parts, and it would just help Big E on Raw as WWE Champion, and would help Kofi and Woods in the tag division, as they would be involved with the top champion. Why is this company so incompetent? I don't have the energy to get angry today, and I went into this episode with an open mind, trying to just enjoy myself for what the show is now, but come on, it's not rocket science. Raw drafted RK Bro and Edge, which are good picks. Edge mentioned in a promo later that being on Raw means a whole new roster of challengers, and I realized that since Edge returned to WWE in January 2020, he's feuded with 3 people: Randy Orton, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins. In nearly 2 years. Granted, there was an injury in there, but even so, maybe Edge can actually feud with some of the people he mentioned on his big return promo. In the 3rd round, SmackDown drafted Happy Corbin and his newly renamed second Madcap Moss. And no, that's not Mad Cat, as I thought it was at first, it's Madcap Moss, according to the graphics that scrolled across the screen with the pics. I'll talk more about him later. Raw then drafted Nikki ASH and Rhea Ripley, and then SmackDown drafted Hit Row from NXT, and 1, very happy for Hit Row and their call-up. 2, very happy they've come to SmackDown so I can watch them. 3, slightly concerned that they're going to sanity them. You know what I mean. Raw then picked Keith Bearcat Lee to round out the 3rd round, and in the 4th and final round on the show, SmackDown drafted Naomi and Jeff Hardy, while Raw got the Mysterios and Austin Theory from NXT. Sure, these picks are fine. So those were all the picks, and I have no barometer of what brand has done well or poorly. I just find the kayfabe draft pools to be super weird because it means the SmackDown Women's Champion wasn't eligible, nor was the United States Champion or the Intercontinental Champion, but also all of those people who were part of this supposed draft pool who weren't picked, who we don't know the identities of, can now pick their brand they want to be on. But this also contradicts a storyline that's played out on this show. It's almost as if WWE haven't thought this through at all. Just switch the brain off. Maybe you'll enjoy it if you don't think about it. So those were the draft picks. What else happened on this show? Roman Reigns came out after the 1st round of draft picks, and the explanation they gave to the rope break spot from Extreme Rules was Pat McAfee on commentary saying it must have been the gods above. That's it. Doesn't matter anyway. On to Brock Lesnar. Lesnar came out to fight Reigns and stood tall, hitting F5s on the Usos. Alright, Charlotte Flair is backstage and says she's on SmackDown now. Woo. Alright, after a recap of Happy Talk, we got Kevin Owens versus Happy Corbin with Madcap Moss at ringside. Madcap Moss already has go-away heat for me. In classic WWE fashion, they've taken one tiny aspect of being happy, laughing, and made that the entire gimmick, with Moss saying unfunny jokes and the two falling over each other laughing the whole time. Stop it. Corbin won incredibly decisively with 2 end of days to win. Alright, Drew McIntyre backstage said he's going for the Universal Championship. Alright, Edge cut an in-ring promo next, but is interrupted by Seth Rollins on the Tron, who is actually at Edge's house. Seth then proceeds to walk a bit around the house, being a dick, eating an apple, drinking some orange juice, dancing a bit, and then sitting on a seat and putting on the fireplace. Cut back to the arena, Edge is on the phone telling Beth not to go home. He's going to get David and Daniel to go over because Seth is at the house. And then the segment ends, and we never go back to it for the rest of the episode. So I guess Seth succeeded in what he wanted to do? Did he? He wanted to beat the words out of Edge in front of his wife and children, and instead he ate an apple and sat on a seat. Alright, Carmella was going to face Liv Morgan again next for some reason, even though Liv won clean at Extreme Rules. Don't question it. If you think about it for more than 2 seconds, you stop enjoying the show. But the match didn't get underway as Carmella unveiled a new mask to wrestle in, which looked rubbish. She beat up Liv Morgan, and the segment ended, and the crowd chanted, "You look stupid" at her. And she did. Alright, an 8-man tag came next with the New Day and the Street Profits versus Ziggler and Rude and Alpha Academy, which was some superficial fun that WWE always puts on in their multi-man matches. New Day got the win. Good. Jeff Hardy backstage was about to be interviewed, but Brock Lesnar walks in, so Hardy walks off. Lesnar said he'd like to thank his good friend Paul Heyman for making sure Brock wasn't drafted, because now he's a free agent and he can do whatever he wants. It cuts to Roman Reigns, who is quietly furious at Heyman while Heyman cowers in the corner. Reigns yells at Heyman and orders him to go to Raw on Monday and make sure the Usos are drafted to SmackDown. After he leaves, he tells the Usos that if they're not drafted to SmackDown, to leave Heyman for dead on Raw. This is all really cool, right? Loads of character levels, intrigue, and you're not sure whose side Heyman's on until you start thinking about it, and then it all falls apart. Reigns was mad that the Usos didn't get drafted to SmackDown on this episode, but that would have only been possible if they were part of the draft pool for this show. So if they weren't drafted on this show, they're free agents now, as Lesnar just pointed out that he is, so they can pick whatever show they want to be on. And if they weren't part of this draft pool, then Reigns is mad at Heyman for something he can't control. Also, it's one thing to make sure the Usos are drafted to SmackDown, but wouldn't you want the Usos to not be drafted at all, so then they could just pick SmackDown? Also, Lesnar saying he's a free agent so he can do whatever he wants. I mean, not really. You can just get to pick your brand. You're not free to roam between shows. Also, how would Heyman have convinced the USA and Fox networks to not draft Brock Lesnar, probably the biggest name WWE has right now? What possible incentives could he have given them? None of it makes any sense. It's almost as if WWE rushed these plans and didn't think them through. And then we got a main event of Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks with Becky on commentary, where Becky interfered and Banks got the win. And then because it must be in her contract that she has to stand tall in every women's segment, Charlotte Flair came out and big booted Banks and Belair, and she and Becky stood tall with their titles in the ring and on the commentary table respectively. Alright, I've said enough about this show already. The draft doesn't make any sense if you think about it. There was no resolution to the ridiculously long Edge and Rollins segment. The wrestling was mostly good, but I think this gets a 2 out of 5 from me. And now over to Tempest with a review of last night's AEW Rampage.
I really wish I didn't have to sit through that 2-hour Rampage pre-show before I got to review this. What's going on, WrestleTalk friends and fans? Tempest is back with another review of AEW Rampage in about 3 minutes. So this show opened as Rampage tends to do, with the best match on the show as Bryan Danielson took on Nick Jackson of the Young Bucks. Bryan ultimately got the win with the Gary Goodridge elbows right into the cattle mutilation, which makes me feel just like I was watching Ring of Honor back in the day, and this match was just awesome. I have not yet gotten tired of seeing Bryan Danielson have great matches, funny enough. Nick Jackson's one of the most underrated guys in the entire business as a single star. He doesn't wrestle singles matches often enough for you to think of him like that, but anytime he does, he knocks it out of the park. And I've said it in the past, when I see Bryan Danielson bring out the old Ring of Honor spots like the I have till 5 moment, as well as the cattle mutilation and the Gary Goodridge elbows, it just makes me feel so warm and fuzzy inside. And it makes me feel so good seeing the fans appreciate it too. After the match, Danielson locked Kenny Omega in the label lock, and it seems very likely that we will get a rematch in the near future. This was an excellent way to start the show. This gets a 5 out of 5. We had a really fun vignette from Ricky Starks, as well as an excellent promo backstage from CM Punk, and that led right into the triple threat women's match with Nyla Rose, Jade Cargill, and Thunder Rosa. This was much more extreme than I was expecting, with Nyla Rose getting powerbombed through a table at ringside before Jade Cargill just completely unleashed on Thunder Rosa with a chair. After about 10 chair shots, Jade Cargill was able to pick up the win, pinning Thunder Rosa, and I really do love the beat their ass finish. You've seen this kind of thing in the past with like Steve Austin beating The Rock at WrestleMania 17, and I just really like it. I don't really have much of a reason to, I just think it's neat.
I just think they're neat.
I don't think you would get up if someone just hit you with a chair 10 times, I'll be honest. This was a very fun match, and I'd be very interested to see Jade Cargill become the first TBS champion, as it's been reported they will be possibly introducing a new women's championship in the near future. This was very good. This gets a 4 out of 5. They also announced that Pac, Andrade El Idolo, Jon Moxley, Lance Archer, Orange Cassidy, and Matt Hardy will all be competing in the Casino Ladder match next week on AEW Dynamite, and oh man, this match is gonna bang. After a backstage vignette from Malachi Black, we got the main event as Orange Cassidy took on Jack Evans in a hair versus hair match. This match was fine, but it was definitely the thing that the fans were the least into on the show. Jack Evans hit a really cool 450 splash off of the apron to the floor, and Orange Cassidy ultimately got the win with the Orange Punch. The Best Friends in the Dark Order came out to ringside to stop the Hardy family office from getting involved, and Jack Evans did indeed get his head shaved. This was good fun, but not terribly impressive. I'll give this a 3 out of 5. The show going off the air with the Dark Order and the Best Friends all giving a big group hug to -1 was a very nice touch, and I did like to see that. That kind of made it worth seeing this in the main event spot, but ultimately I would have shuffled the order of the matches around a little bit. That being said, this was a very fun show. It blew by. This gets a 4 out of 5. And that just about wraps it up for me. If you want to hear more of my thoughts on this show, as well as the WWE Draft on SmackDown, make sure you go over to WrestleTalk Podcast later on today, where myself and Chopper Pete will be breaking down both shows in complete detail. Until then, make sure you go and give Ollie Davis a hard time, because he is our manservant. Jam that jam, LIW for life.
So the whole point of this booking, and it's something that 90% of people watching this video, probably the guy hosting it will fundamentally disagree with is the concept that NXT needs to change. There needs to be an NXT 2.0. I cannot just say don't. I can't say just do the old NXT things of having young homegrown stars mixing up with indie darlings with satisfying long main events every week and intense, well-produced character video packages and stakes-focused drama. Like, that's NXT 1.0, apparently.